Do you mind if I ask you, what are your thoughts on Canada's and Europe's free trade agreement?
Actually, I don't know much about that.
It's the way to go.
I think we should share all the good news and benefits to help each other.
We have to be open to other countries, as it should be open to us.
Without trading, we won't be what we are today.
CETA is being dubbed as Canada's most ambitious free trade agreement since NAFTA. It's supposed to open up new markets for Canadian exporters. Critics, however, are very quick to point out that there will be downward pressure on wages and environmental risks. The question then becomes, will freer trade with Europe result in more benefits than costs?
I just want to explain a little bit about the organization that I work for, Canadian Federation of Independent Business, if you're not familiar with it. We are the largest small business organization in Canada. We have about 110,000 members across the country. They're all privately held Canadian companies.
My name is Stuart Trew. I'm the trade campaigner with the Council of Canadians. And we are, for those who know who we are, we were born out of the free trade debate of mid to late 1980s. We're a national social justice citizens advocacy organization.
My name is Ehsassi. I've been coming to these sessions for quite some time, but the reason this is quite odd for me that I'm actually behind the mic here is because I've actually practiced trade law for about 13 years.
At CFIB, we did survey our members on what they felt about trade with Europe and, did they favor lowering tariffs and all the things that are included in CETA. And they came back with a resounding yes. Quite a few of our small businesses already were active traders with various parts of Europe, so they had experience. And they felt that whatever it was they were offering, and whether it was goods or services or whatever, they felt they would have, with tariffs dropped, they would become more competitive in that market, and therefore they could expand their businesses, hire more people, and so on.
We're not sure that this deal is actually going to produce the benefits the government is estimating. They're talking about $12 billion in GDP growth. This is based on one single study that was done in 2008 that's been since discredited, not just by people who you could consider, on the left, for example, Unifor economist Jim Stanford, who suggested that in fact, based on the trade deficit that's going to be created by CETA, you're looking at losing between 30,000 and 150,000 jobs. But in fact, people who are very supportive of the CETA have come out with statements saying, yeah, these are probably exaggerated numbers.
No one could reasonably, say whether our negotiators did a good deal or a bad deal when you don't really have the opportunity to get into the details. All these trade agreements, you will remember the NAFTA agreement, thousands and thousands of pages of a legal agreement. In reality, if you really do want to pass judgment as to whether our negotiators did a good job or a bad job, you have to get into the nitty-gritty of it. The devil is always in the details in these.
It's another market. It's a huge market. It's a very, very big market. The unification of Europe, they are reaching the EU agreement, harmonized an awful lot of the trading rules and whatnot, which makes it easier for small businesses to deal with them.
We are a trading nation, and the notion that we can not be trading with other countries and still do well as an economy isn't on for Canada. So that whole analogy that you can pick nits with the pointy heads that go and negotiate these trade agreements, no question about it, because it gets into the most insane, minute, gory detail that would, that's why when you ask the general public, they usually say I like it or I hate it, but not terribly based on a lot of information as a rule.
What we will do is that we will open up a market of 300 millions and they get access to a market of 35 millions. I think it's a wonderful trade. I think it is a great opportunity for the next generation. There are occasions where you go through those trade agreements and you look at what they produced and you just say, my goodness, what were they thinking? So it's absolutely imperative that you scrub through every agreement and make sure that they did a good job. However, that having been said, I think we will all have to agree that there will
always be, with all sorts of comprehensive agreements, there will be winners and there will be losers.
One of the problems that we currently have with CETA is we don't have all the details out. So it's a bit difficult at this juncture to make a judgment as to how comprehensive the agreement actually will be and what the carve-outs and exceptions will be in that agreement.
We're such one world. I mean, in Toronto, where more than half of us come from other parts of the world. And I think we should share all the good news and benefits to help each other.
There's been studies done to show that, in fact, our trade deficit's going to increase under CETA. This is based on the government's own numbers. So we know for a fact we're looking at a higher trade deficit with Europe. That's actually going to result in lost jobs here in Canada in all likelihood. And there's a lot of groups worried about where those jobs are going to get lost, whether it's in manufacturing or other sectors that are important for Canada's economy.
What's really happened in the developed world, North America in particular, is we have lost those jobs that were not highly skilled jobs, but they were, good manufacturing jobs, to lower wage jurisdictions. And again, it's been Asia and so on by and large. And will we ever get them back? Probably not. But can we get, with the advent of technology and on, can we have higher skilled jobs that fill those kinds of roles?
Well, it's an important issue. I think Canadians should care about trade policy in the same way they would care about any other policy, energy policy. We're not looking at something that's going to uniformly benefit everybody. In fact, the evidence of free trade is that it depresses wages, it reduces good jobs here in Canada. Over the past 20 years under NAFTA and the free trade deal with the United States, we can be better off or with a different model, I think, a different kind of economic model that is actually going to benefit everyone.
Our relationship as a nation with most other countries sees us exporting raw materials. It tends to be the strength of our economy that we're quite rich in raw materials. So it's not exclusive to CETA. However, one of the things that's very plausible with CETA, which could be different than other arrangements, is to export services, because we have a lot of really good strengths, engineering services. We're very good at infrastructure in Canada, for example.
We're competing with other Eastern, or rather Western European countries. Their environmental standards are just as tough as ours. And in fact, my concern about it is mostly that some people are using that as an excuse for not moving forward. Because if you want tougher environmental standards, you go with a trade pact that has teeth. That's what brings not only us up, but the rest of the world up.
We will have access to a lot more European goods, which a lot of people would like to have access to as consumers. As well, though, an awful lot of businesses naturally, they're going to drop a lot of the tariff barriers. So firms currently doing business in Europe, they will become more competitive, presuming that'll mean they will expand, it'll create employment, and so on.
Catherine Swift reminds us that despite the dire warnings of NAFTA, Canadians are still better off with free trade with our American neighbors. However, both sides of this debate agree that greater levels of transparency are absolutely warranted. Canadians need to be involved with this debate and understand how CETA will affect them. For future topics that interest you, tweet us at WSIC_Canada.